Hey everybody, Nick Licameli here on Feel Good Friday. Today we're talking about the reverse crunch. The reverse crunch is a great exercise to train the rectus abdominis and overall core stability and pelvic control, which can help bulletproof your back. It's one of my favorite ab exercises and it's very, very simple. Sometimes there's no need to try anything new or extravagant or stand on a Bosu ball with one foot while holding a kettlebell. Sometimes the simplest basic exercises, when done correctly, can be the most effective. Let's take a look at it. So there are many different variations of the reverse crunch. So the simplest form of the reverse crunch is what I'm showing here on the floor. You can progress it by doing it on a decline bench where you're going closer to vertical, or on a captain's chair where you kind of sit with your arms on the cushions and your legs hang down and you're completely vertical. Now, the more horizontal you are, the easier the exercise will be, and the more vertical you are, the more difficult the exercise will be. You can also progress it by straightening out the arms or the legs, because that's going to increase the lever arm. However, if done correctly, the most basic form of the exercise, like I'm showing here on the floor, can be quite intense and quite effective. So before the movement even starts, your mind has to be focused on your lower back and pelvis. The key to this exercise is maintaining that slight posterior pelvic tilt. If you're not sure what a pelvic tilt is, be sure to check out the link below. So a pelvic tilt basically means that your lower back is pressed against the floor. So of course your lower back is going to lose contact with the floor as you crunch it up, but as you come down, you don't want your lower back to arch off the ground. Coming out of the pelvic tilt a little bit as you bring your legs down will help get a stretch on the abs. So if you can do that under control, that may not be a bad thing to do, rather than just locking in that pelvic tilt as hard as you can the whole time. If you cheat on this exercise, it becomes very, very easy to do. And you may be fooling yourself if you jump on a captain's chair and you can bang out 20 plus reps while holding a dumbbell in between your feet. In order to perform this movement correctly, you have to be able to know the difference between hip flexion and spinal flexion. So this exercise is a gentle spinal flexion, not a hip flexion. Our hips are in 90 degrees of flexion, but they should stay about at 90 degrees of flexion the whole time. So if you look at the angle of my thighs to my trunk, it's about 90 degrees the whole time. And as I'm coming up, my spine and my lower back are leaving the floor. So we want to make sure that we're not just flexing our hips and leaving our backs on the floor. We want to make sure that we're actually getting that spinal flexion and not just straight hip flexion. This picture shows this pretty nicely. The top picture is straight hip flexion only. The bottom picture has spinal flexion. So you can see that although the bottom picture, her legs are moving upward, it's because the motion is coming from her spine, not her hips. That angle between her thighs and her torso stays 90 degrees. Our hip flexors tend to be much, much stronger than our lower abdominals, so they're going to want to take over this movement to begin with. You have to make sure that you're getting that spinal flexion and not just hip flexion, especially if you go to progress the exercise on a decline bench or that captain's chair. Have to make sure you're not just flexing your hips, you're flexing your spine. Form is key, but especially with this exercise. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.